Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the Wednesday show here. I don't even know what we call this show, but in any case, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you to all the moderators that are in the room. Y'all do a fantastic job. And before I introduce my guest, let me just invoke favor upon all of us. Great favor. You can never not have enough favor in your life. And as we always talk here, prosperity, overwhelming prosperity be on your life, in full restoration, nothing missing, nothing broken be found in your lives. So just want to put that out there. It's important. One other thing, quick update on Patrick and his wife and, the challenge that they're facing. Listen, I'll just tell you how it is. The news is not good. And so I think what we need to be doing is sending them peace. I won't get into the details of, what's with Angie, but needless to say, this cancer is, well, it does what cancer does. So we'll send them our love. We'll send them warmth and peace. Patrick definitely needs it. And Angie, I think, as he has told me, she is in peace and at peace. So we'll leave that there. So anyway, having said that, it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce a man who I have found particularly fascinating ever since we first got introduced to each other by a mutual acquaintance, Laura. And it's my pleasure to introduce John Martin. John, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Wayne. It's so great to be with you today.
Well, thank you, sir. I know that you're in a little warmer part of the country. So
The pollen's pretty bad, though, I have to tell you.
Yeah, I actually saw a picture in the news. I guess it was there in Raleigh that literally the yellow cloud, which is pollen. Are you having that type of pollen
It's
explosion?
terrible. I recorded the rain song by Jimmy Page in hopes of invoking some rain, and it rained really hard in about an hour later. So I think
Did it clear out everything?
it kind of knocked it back a little bit anyway.
John and I spoke last week, and John, I told you back in the day, this was back in the early 90s, I lived in, and come to find out, not too far from where you're at, right up there off Windy Hill and 75, so Marietta. So a lot of fond memories of Atlanta.
We were neighbors.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. And, I went after you and I had gotten off because, I was very much involved in the video industry at that time. Company I was working for, I was based out of Nashville. We were doing a lot of country music videos.
Oh, wow.
And I keep thinking that we probably crossed somewhere. I don't know. I mean,
It's very possible. You look familiar to me.
yes. So, and the thing I can always remember about Atlanta was the first spring I was there. And it is the pollen there. It coats everything.
It's something else, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, it's so good to have you. So John, I'm excited about having you on. You have quite the life story. You play music, instruments, and that's something that I happen to think that I think all people should learn an instrument. Just me.
I agree with you.
We all can't sing, but we could all play an instrument. So tell us a little bit about yourself, John. Your musical career, how to get started, and the second part of this question, I'll wait till you answer the first part.
Well, we've had music in my house basically my whole life. My brother's a concert pianist, and he started playing at 5 years old, and he's a couple years older than me, so I would accompany him to his piano lessons, and it really wasn't, something that I was very good at, honestly. The piano was really his thing. But his teacher sat down. I was just a little kid, and he sat down next to me, and he said, you should really think about finding an instrument that will, resonate with you. And from that, I found the guitar, and I've been playing nearly 50 years now.
Wow, 50 years. That is
That's
amazing.
something. Yeah. And
Time goes by, doesn't it?
it does. And I've met so many wonderful people, through music, and yourself, of course. I greatly appreciate you having me on today. It's a great honor to be here. And, I've become friends with people and, intelligences that I would never have thought when I first picked up my little guitar and from Sears and started strumming on it, that it would take me to, so
Why the classical? I mean, you and I are close, I would say, similar to age. The influence, I having learned to play the clarinet and the bassoon,
cool.
And the bassoon as a double reed instrument was the biggest challenge I ever had. But why classical? I mean, rock was pretty much, in the throes of becoming real.
Yeah, I started, the very first song I ever played was Stairway to Heaven. I had no idea how to play it. I just put it on the record on, and I tried to figure out how to tune the guitar up, and I just kept playing it over and over and over. And, a few hundred tries into it, I finally got it. I think if you were to get that album and put the needle on it, to go zip, I completely wore it out. But, and then
it will go down probably as the all-time greatest song, I think, coming out of rock and roll.
It's just a great old tune, and I saw them play it live, which was really great. And from there, I was a big fan of Yes, the British band, and Steve Howe had one piece on an album called Mood for a Day on nylon string guitar, and I'd never heard a nylon string guitar. And I said, that is such an interesting sound. And so I started investigating, and I found recording of Andre Segovia and Christopher Parkening, and it just kind of drew me in. And that's where a great deal of my emphasis went after that. I play all kinds of music, but I love to play music from different centuries. And, you can meet the composers through the music. And I feel like when I play, there's a connection between myself and these people that lived hundreds of years ago in, distant lands, and it just brings everything together. And I found it to be very universal in many, many ways.
And you traveled, just on the Yes, my 18th birthday, my girlfriend went to the Houston Astrodome and saw Gary Wright in Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah. And,
very nice.
Yeah, I've been a huge Yes fan. It's quite interesting to trip on LSD listening to Yes.
To say.
But
You're revealing too much, Wade.
Those were the days. It was the time and the era, John. That's all I can say. It was. Well, so you have played around the world as well. Is that correct?
I have. Wayne, I want to pause you for 1 second. I want to send this file to you. Should I send it to your email or?
Yeah, send it to my email. Be great.
Okay, just give me one moment and I'll do that.
And I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat room. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and do on that. Let me work on this for a second. I'll be right back.
So again, we have a full crowd here. Thank you for tuning in. John is sending me a file that you're going to find. The second half to his story is where it gets very intriguing. I happen to think that, John and I, when we spoke, music is the universal language. It can, what else that lyrics? David Gates in Bread. It can, the music, the guitar man. It can bring you high. It can bring you low. You remember David Gates?
I love Bread, man. Oh.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Grew up with that, man. I mean, and listen, I'll admit to everyone here. I liked the Carpenters. I really did.
Love the Carpenters. Three Dog Night played at the new Performing Arts Center just a block away from me. And so I was able to walk to a concert and come back home. And I'd never seen them before. They were great. Oh, my goodness. They were great. I just loved it.
There were those rare gems. And I still say Karen Carpenter had the voice of an angel.
She did. She did.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I guess, John, that's kind of the Renaissance part of, you know, of learning classical music. Um, my band teacher, and I had him for 3 years in a row, Mr. Foster. and, he was a strict guy, but you know what? We got good at what we were doing, and I appreciate that man. You know, he's long since gone on in his journey, but kudos to him for what he has done for so many minds. Did you have a particular teacher that stands out?
I had a number of teachers starting early on, and gosh, Lister Bass. I studied with Parkening and Jose Tomas, who was Segovia's protege, and actually they shared teaching responsibilities in Spain. And John Sutherland was a teacher of mine that studied with Segovia, and
Yeah.
Manuel Barhueco, just a number of. And the really great thing, I was editor of a guitar magazine out of Italy, so I was able to interview so many of my heroes for a number of years before the whole magazine industry kind of imploded. But it was.
Thank you, digital technology.
Yeah,
You know,
trying to
print
rethink
was
the whole
cool.
paradigm now. But yeah.
So, am I to assume that you're fluent in Italian, huh?
No.
Okay, there you go. You see, I put an Italian magazine. You know, it must be good in Latin.
Well, I was actually in charge of the American version of the Italian magazine. So I took care of North America, and they took care of most of Europe, and we, shipped stuff back and forth. And it's a long story, but it was great fun. And some of the finest musicians in the world. I brought them over for a concert, and he said, "I see that you have different names of your presidents for your cities." He said, "We can't do that because we go back 3,000 years. We wouldn't know who to name it after." And I thought that was interesting. They would have some of my colleagues would be like the 10th generation of musicians that go spanning back hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's an amazing thing to see the depth.
Going on history, can I ask you, because one that I have always found interesting was Sumerian history. How far can you go back and trace the string guitar in the form that we know it? I know it had.
I think the earliest direct descendant is the oud from Iraq, and that goes way back. That's a few thousand years. So,
wow, amazing. I got your website up, and trace the string guitar. So now this is off your album.
Yeah, that's actually, that's very different from anything I've written.
Let me stop that. There we go.
I was deep in meditation, and I was asking for some phrase that would encapsulate where the humanity should go, and very strong and very clear. I was given peace to all. Those 3 words, peace to all, and it kept repeating. And I wrote this piece almost immediately without even much thought. And
I'm going to share your website as we're listening to this. I love this music, John. I got to tell you.
Thank you.
It sends me to a place that I've been before, and it's very comfortable.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
And all of you listening, make sure that you go to John's website here. I've left the link. Become a fan. You just simply hit here, and then you can sign up by Facebook or through another means. But John, and your music is for sale, I would think, as well, correct? John, did we lose you? Let's see here. I'll stop the share. Did we lose you, John? It looks like we did. That's all right. We'll just wait for him to come back on. It happens. But anyway, the music is great, isn't it? John will get back here, I have no doubt. With the weather between him and us, it doesn't surprise me. So he'll be back on. And the second part of John's story is one I know he was trying to send me a file, and I don't think it's come through yet, of his UFO encounters. And folks, they come to him. They literally will manifest to him. He has shared his story, and I'll let him, because I know he'll be back on. With presidents. He's played before 3 living presidents, and has shared his story with President Carter. So is Patrick here? Hello, Patrick. How are you, my friend? So good to see you. Much love. So I'm sure John will be back on. We'll just be patient. But is he not just, that's a person who I would love to sit around and have coffee, drink tea. Man, can you imagine meditation sessions with that? I mean, it's beautiful music. While we're waiting for him to get back on, let me take you over to his website again. And we will share in his music. So I believe this is, like John said, this is Peace to All. And if he was here, I know he would tell us that that I think, as he was saying, this is inspired from them. And I love that. So make sure you go over to reverbnation.com. I've left the link. Just support him on what he does, and because this is beautiful. I love it. And I hope that, many of you can to buy his music, meditate by it, go to his website, use it for meditative purposes. You can't go wrong on this. So, yeah, cool, isn't it? It is. All right, Dave. So let me pull up this over here. Give me a second as he comes in. And we'll still give John time. So normally I got Patrick in here, so I wanted Patrick, don't go anywhere. Give my love to Angie, as I've already told you. But Patrick, check this out, my friend. So, the work that we pioneered on talking with the planets. So there it is, folks. There is the first recorded actual picture of a black hole. They exist. They're real. The planets have told us that. This is, by the way, the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration. It's where they linked a number of radio telescopes around the world to form one. And this is it. I haven't even had a chance. I'm sure they'll send other resolutions through it, but we're already beginning to see so much, as you can see very early in here. Appears to be absolutely jets being exerted out. This is quite fascinating for me, folks. I just, to think this is 55 million light years away. So obviously, that's not that far away when you think about it. 55 light years away. Each light year is 6 trillion miles. So Patrick, there you go, my friend. I think it tells us a lot of what the planets were telling us, and how cool is that? That's all I've got to say. And folks, they're speaking to us. Source speaks to us. you all are learning now. Yes, we were way ahead of the curve, Patrick, no doubt about it. And I just have a sense that we're going to be back there. But, you know, we're going to be at peace about this. Um, Something's happening. You know, if we can't get John back on today, we'll try to get him back on tomorrow. His story about, and I don't want to ruin it, but it's fascinating. As he tells the story, and you'll hear it from him, trust me, they manifest. I told him it looks to me, and it's just me, but I got a sense that what we're seeing is a transition of interdimensional, extra dimensional craft, maybe intelligences. Maybe there is a place where intelligence can manifest itself and have physical properties to it. And I mean, ability to travel wherever. Maybe Ariel was right. We're going to finish with Ariel. Maybe that's what happens. But I know this, they do manifest to him and quite regularly. And what a gift. I hope that we'll get John back on, but I invite them to come and talk to us all. Those of us who are ready, those of us who really want to see it. Hey, Lee, would you please send me your address again, hon? I have something I want to send to you. So, Patrick, have we just blown things away? What if they begin to discover, as the planets were saying, something's out there? It almost sounds like the boogeyman, doesn't it? Something's out there. You better watch it. But no, I digress. Is that right, Franny? Grant Cameron? Okay. Oh, the ones talked about Kashmir. Yeah, yeah. You know, all right. So I don't know if John's going to be back on or not. Who knows? I'm surprised we're back, that I'm on, to be honest with you, because the wind is starting to blow out there. Franny, what's it doing up in your part of the country? You're just a little bit north of me. Hey, I like that ace. How long has this been going on? How many of you have, yeah, I was a singer at one time. So consciousness. This is a book by Julian Jaynes, and he's a just a remarkable mind. Spent some time in prison because he was not going to go fight in an illegal war. I think all wars are illegal, but that's just me. Had the epiphany of watching a worm as it emerged out of the soil. And he thought, because he had lots of time to think, well, is the earth any more less aware of the worm as the worm is aware of the earth? How do we define consciousness? How is consciousness framed out? This is a book that we're going to have fun with. It gets into the basic question of what is consciousness. I mean, yeah, I know we always talk about it, you know, and so often, you know, it's talked about so often that, yeah, no, it's que sera, sera. You know, yeah, I've heard that before. No big deal. But as Source said, where do your thoughts originate from? I meditate on that a lot. I was up early this morning, meditate on this. We're going to get into this book, but I just want to say this about what I've read thus far in this book. And allow me to get out. Here we go. When I realized that the world gods were man-made. They were man-constructed. Every holy book ever written was written by a human being. Either it was inspired by the individual's imagination, or all were channeled by a higher intelligence. What James wrote about and what he discovered was this. Oh, John's back. Excuse me. We're going to pull him in. I'll just have to hold that thought until tomorrow. So let me get him back in. I did not see him in there, so hopefully he hasn't been waiting too long. I don't think so. Here we go. Here we go, folks. And he should be joining us about now. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, Wayne. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. It happens. It does.
Worse than a frozen computer.
Well, we carry on. So welcome back. I knew you were going to be back. So I told the audience a little bit about your story. So we'll just pick up. So you have, I don't know if it's this gift or if you have great favor, but it seems like other dimensional beings like you and they come around you.
Well, and I wouldn't say it's a gift, honestly. And like,
I don't have it.
Well, I have to, my point with here is that, people will say, you must have a gift to play guitar. Well, that may be true, but I've also put probably 20,000 hours into playing.
Oh, well, there is that.
That too.
Yeah, well, come on.
And so the same thing with my interactions. I consciously made the point to try to interact, and I do it on a regular basis. I do it every clear night. I do it during the day. Every time I walk outside, I acknowledge these higher intelligences. I thank them for their friendship and their kindness towards me and my family and the earth and, the enormity of the universe. And it is connected, Wayne, and it has been such a beautiful and important experience that I'm honored to share it with you and your listeners today.
So this is very encouraging. You practice this. This is something I don't know if it's spoken about. Can you go a little bit more detailed of what that actually entails?
And my contention is this: every one of us has a unique talent that we only have. Every single person is a miracle. Everyone, each and every person. And you do something that is very important to yourself, and you do very well. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're a cobbler, or if you're a carpenter, or if you're a mathematician, or whatever it is that you do very well that takes you to that very serene place in your mind, use that. Share it with the universe consciously. Go outside. Don't be afraid of anything. When you go out, it's a beautiful experience. And just the love feeling you get when you see them, and it's dimensional. I've spoken with a number of scholars, and they're thinking fifth, maybe sixth dimensional beings that come in. You see them pop into our dimension. I'll tell you what I do.
And while you're talking, I'm going to pull up one of your videos so people can get an idea of what you actually have recorded.
So really, and I'll start from the beginning of the concept. I had dinner with President Carter in Toledo, Spain. We were going to a friend of mine's guitar factory to sign some labels because we were donating them to the Carter Center, and they've been raising substantial amounts of money. So he was going to Spain. So we all went together and had a beautiful time, and it was wonderful. And I had dinner with him. If you want to, I sent that link, by the way, to your email. If you want to download that, there's some pictures of that dinner we had together. And the person next to me asked President Carter about UFOs. I wouldn't have done that, but he did. And he was very open about it. And at that time, I had one experience, my sister and I, in the 70s. had a large luminous craft that was that appeared over our neighborhood. And a friend of mine has a music store, and when I spoke to him many years later, and he saw it, so I shared that with President Carter, and he was not judgmental, and he was very, matter of fact, and we moved on to other topics. But I used that as the impetus to, and more of a, just an exercise or an experiment. I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and music was used as a communication tool. So I thought I'd go out on my deck and perform music with that intent to communicate with the universe. And, some of these pieces were made by the great minds of the world, Bach and Ravel and Handel and Jobim. I play, Brazilian music, and so I did that, and I think that one might be sideways, but that's all right.
I think it is sideways, but it's still, that's all right, folks. You're going to see it. I wish I could actually turn this around, but it won't let me. Come on. Now, I think you're actually talking here, aren't you? So hear this, folks.
Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, yeah. Oh, too. Oh, wonderful.
This is so fascinating, John. So you're actually talking with them telepathically. This is what I believe.
Thank you. Thanks so much, you wonderful, sweet, beautiful friends.
Look at that. John, are you still with me?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
We lost him again. Every time we share it. Well, we're going to continue to share this. This is, let's just continue. I know John will try to get back here. So let's just continue checking this out, folks. And let's continue listening to him.
Hey, sweet ones.
Now check this out, folks. I actually blew this up.
Oh, it's lovely to see you.
This thing is actually throwing off light.
Thanks for coming to see me. I thank you so much for that. Thank you, lovely friends. Thank you. It's so wonderful to see you today. Thank you, my dear friends. Have a great day. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you, sweet.
Look at that, folks.
See you later. Thank you, dear ones.
It actually throws off what it looks to me to be almost like a field.
So good to see you. Thank you.
And there's two of them.
Thank you.
Fascinating, is it not? Yeah. Wow. So what do you say? I mean, this is, and he's back. Give me 1 second here, folks. We'll get him right back here. We won't let the technology, there we go. And there he is. John. There he is. There you are.
My phone instead of my computer. I hope that works.
Yeah, we can hear you. Absolutely. So it doesn't surprise me that there is not connectivity issues. So it's just part of the way we roll. So I was showing the video that you had, which was clearly, and I believe I actually have some stills that, give me 1 second, that I can pull up on this, that it looked to me to be clearly two different craft. How did you see it?
Yeah, there was a first craft that I initially saw, and I really thought that was going to be the entirety of the sighting. And then in the same flight path, directly behind it, I made a short video, and then I turned the camera off, and I saw the two, and I didn't really recognize them as two, honestly, when I first saw it. And then when I started recording and I zoomed in, I could see there were two that were intermingled with each other, which I thought was really awesome.
Now here's you and President Carter.
That was in Toledo, Spain.
How is he as a individual?
He is a lovely human being. You can talk to him about really any subject you can imagine. He has great knowledge. Andre Segovia was a very dear friend of his, and the first time I performed for him and Mrs. Carter, it was a big event, and he came up to me when I was while I was playing, and introduced himself, and it was just a wonderful event, and we've been friends ever since.
He seems to be a person with a gentle heart, and as well as with Rosalind. Did you get a chance to meet with her?
Yeah, she's always been there with him. I've got a book full of letters, handwritten letters from both of them, which is just, I encourage it very much.
I'm trying to actually get to yours. There you are. Now, there's a story behind this, isn't there?
Okay, so I'm not sure how far you got. Did you get to the purple dome-shaped object with the pink ring?
No, we only got one video on that file that was sent.
Well, I don't have a video of that.
Okay.
Okay, so the narrative is, so the first craft that came was this purple dome-shaped object.
There, is that it right there?
No, I don't have a video of what happened.
Okay.
But that's so tiny. It's amazing. Anyway,
actually, it's pretty big. If you take it in context of that cloud.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They specifically do, these are all in the same place too, as I'm not sure if I was able to say though. So the dome-shaped craft came after 2 sessions of just playing guitar, and then after that I had 4 of them spinning craft that came, and they were in line directly right where that heart-shaped cloud was where they were. And then about 10 days later, the big ones, they were the shape of a cross and a crescent, and they were the size of office buildings. They were metallic. They were at a 45-degree angle. Yeah, pause right there if you would.
Okay, over here.
Yeah, and they were in formation, and they flew directly overhead. And I ran in to get the camera. Karen saw as well, and I was fumbling with it, and they said, "Please don't take our picture. We'll give you something that you can take a picture of." And I heard that clearly in my mind, and I was just kind of stunned, because to see something just seemingly impossible like that, Wayne, it changes you, really. I mean, something that massive. I mean, they were literally the size of office buildings going directly overhead. And then they made that request to not take their picture, and and I honored that, and I just kind of was stunned by the experience. And about 12 days, I thought it was 10 days, but I think it was 12 days later, in the same spot where I first saw the cross and the crescent, I was walking out my door to go to meet my neighbor. We're going to a movie, and I heard, "Look over here," in my head, and that perfect, beautiful heart-shaped cloud was right there. And to me, that was just an amazing thing. I mean, and if the ramifications of that, Wayne, is amazing, because I just was walking out, and so the temporary nature of a cloud, but to have that perfectly made and set right there for me on that just a few seconds I was walking by is mind-boggling to me.
John, when you're talking with them, or when you sense their presence, do you sense the intelligence?
I do.
I'm curious on this, because I mean,
I absolutely do. I'll say at one point, they'll come in formation, Wayne. One of the early times, they'd come in and I'd see them coming in. Actually, they're coming this way, and one kind of peeled off to the right, directly over the top of me. And I was sitting in my chair, just kind of, I've been projecting and I'm jumping around a bit. But what I do is I find a constellation. In the summer, it's generally the Big Dipper, and I just kind of concentrate on two or three of the stars, and then I project. I say, "Hello, it's John Martin. I'm your guitarist friend, and and I thank you for coming to see me, and I'm going to play some music for you." So in my mind, I tune my guitar up. I do it both ways. I'll play, but generally at night, I'll just mentally play these pieces, and all the left and right hand techniques. I use my brain to play that, and I have the pitch, within my mind, and very deeply ingrained, and so I'm projecting that very specific, all those actions and that emotion into the universe, and they latch onto it, and you can see them pop in. It's a very bright light, boom, like that, and there they are. And so that on this one occasion,
We can't hear you, John. There we go.
um, came directly over, and then one peeled off, and I just felt like waving to it. And when I waved to it, it went. I mean, they look star-like when you see them, and they weren't very high. They were maybe 1,000 feet at the most. And then when they do that, and they do that very often, it's an amazing event to see that the intelligence recognize your actions, and it expands brightness exponentially when you do that. And then went back and I waved again, and it did it a second time, and then I waved again, and it did it a third time. And once they were much later, they were very far away, and I said, "We really are friends, aren't we?" And they went, "Phew." And I get this really positive, beautiful energy that comes from them when I see them.
It seems like there is a direct correlation between positive thought and their appearing. I don't know if they'd appear if there was negativity. It have you ever experienced that?
No,
Yeah.
no. And I'm not so naive to think that there's only good out in the universe, but I think when you're projecting in a very positive way, a very loving way, that it attracts that same frequency and it repels the opposite. And so I feel very comfortable being out by myself, interacting and having these incredible experiences that are, I think,
You-
they're earth changing. They can really take us, I think, to the next place when it's fully explored. I'm still very young with this, Wayne. I don't really
I
know.
think we all are.
Yeah.
100 years isn't enough, man. I mean,
Mhm.
it isn't. As you were talking, I was getting the image. You said that in some of the academics that you've spoken to, in the fifth, sixth dimensional beings,
Mhm.
and I often am curious if these higher dimensions, if they are not surrounded by realms of the emotion that we emit, love, for instance, in a dimension where only love, that frequency and that vibration can exist, and it would be attracted to the same type of frequency.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Patrick is seeing the same thing, the balance of frequencies. Yeah.
And
Which leads me, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
I think, and that's where music plays in. Can you imagine the cacophony of noise that comes from the earth
Mm,
constantly?
it's maddening.
I can't imagine, but you know, a single voice that has a clear and positive message that is being projected, and that is recognized, and that's honored as I honor them. And
Yeah.
I tell everyone that's listening, try it yourself. Go outside, you know, enjoy a beautiful night out. I walk my dog. That's probably the best thing I've ever done, is to get a dog, and the exercise and the interaction with my neighbors, and then the ability to interact with the universe has all come from getting out from the inside and going outside, and, and
You
just
just let, so question, because I think this is a question many people would have as well.
Mhm.
It didn't happen the first time you came out there and began to mentally think of content. What I'm trying to say here, you can't get discouraged because something doesn't manifest the first time.
No, absolutely not. And there's numerous times I go out and I don't see anything. Last night I did, of course. Um, and before, just as an aside, the video that you have of the three, the one and the two together, that are
Mm-hmm.
a couple nights before, that was an amazing evening event. I don't have it recorded, but I was watching Orion, and I was concentrating on Orion, and right at the belt, I could see energy passing through it. It was a clear energy, but it was shimmering through the belt, and I could tell they were coming. And then poof, a big golden one materialized directly on this side of it, with two small energies next to it, and they went over the top of me, and they went back, and they went back again, and it was one of the most amazing things. And then the next day is when I filmed those in the same place. Go to the little water park around the corner. And I used to do it all here in my courtyard, but we have neighbors, and so I just kind of go to a quiet place and do it now mostly. But I can, when I walk. And one thing I do too, Wayne, is when I'm walking my dog over there, the cadence of my walking will be the cadence of the music that I'm playing in my mind. Often I'll just play Bach's first prelude in C, very simple. And that's my cadence. And by the time I get there, I'm generally finished with the piece. My mind is where it needs to be, and oftentimes they'll be waiting for me there, and they'll be different. They'll appear sometime, and as you were saying, sometimes they don't. I'm sure they have many more important things to do than come see me all the time. But
Wow.
when they do, I very much appreciate it.
Well, you were saying that I was listening to Romeo Foxtrot, and somehow I'm getting Robert Duvall coming through, in Apocalypse Now, dun 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 dun, dun, So, I digress, but it tells me something as well, is that man has not, I don't know if we had the knowledge. I contend that we've moved into a region of space. Our space has moved into a region of space that's had some very interesting effects on everything. But it tells me more and more that Earth is kind of unique, because it seems to be either a crucial intersect to something much larger, or we're unique in what we actually can produce here.
I think that's true. I think what we have is miraculous to them, just like what they have is miraculous to us. Each one of us are so completely unique that
Yeah.
we celebrate that in every way. And I have friends that are also contactees throughout the world now, that I'm in contact with. I have a friend in Colorado. You're in Colorado, right?
Yes. Yep. Hmm.
And she has Merkabas that come to her. And as mine always move, they don't stay stationary. I've had a few where they'll pulse into our dimension, and then they'll shift and they'll pulse again. But she has them where they will sit in one place early in the morning and just sit there with that spinning energy that you can see in some of the evening ones. And there are messages that are being sent, and things are changing and moving and ascending, and
When you were saying that, I have captured, I'm an avid sky photographer. That's when I first started my channel, years ago, was just posting all of the phenomenon I was catching. Now you've let me in on something, because like I told you before, I'm usually up about 4 o'clock. Now and now you've gotten me to thinking, because in I guess it would be more of the west, almost due west, about 4 o'clock in the morning, there is something that I have seen constantly, and it's in the mountains. I mean, I know it's a distance away, so I'm going to check that out, my friend.
You should check it, and yeah, and put a camera on it and see what it does. Because the energy, you can see that spinning energy, which is
Yeah.
the wheel within the wheel.
A question from the chat room is, will you ask John, how common is it for ETs to contact musicians across the board?
Very common. That's a beautiful question, by the way. And I think artists and musicians, we have, we live differently and we think differently in a lot of ways. And it's not better or worse. It's just different. And I have so many friends that have these experiences. There's an album called Eclectia that I was asked to be on. And I think I sent a link to you.
Yes, you did. And it's down below.
And it's experiencers from all over the world. And the album is really worth getting. I would suggest your readers look into that, because each person gives a 1 or 2 minute narrative on their experience, and then a piece of music that's representative of their
Ooh.
art. And
I listened to yours. Now I'm going to have to go back and listen to the others.
they're very different. There's some reggae and all kind of different stuff, but it's
Well, I'm a huge Michael Franks fan, so anything that has a little bit of the sombra salsa to it, I'm all for it. Yeah. Lot of good memories where Atlanta and Michael Franks are concerned. But anyway, I digress. Another question is, some people are asking, do we think that these may be humans from the future?
I think that's possible. I think it is possible. Yeah, I think it could be humans that, and human, what is that exactly? I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
I contend that there are no true humans. I mean, we're hybrids if we're anything.
I think we're just a point on a curve.
Ooh,
And,
well said. I like that.
and there's so many of us that are well beyond. And I think I had dinner with a friend of mine, and he's doing some artistic renderings of, because what I envision, Wayne, and I'm not sure if I'm right about it, but it feels right. When I'm projecting, I feel like it goes to another dimension, and there's a beautiful family, like a mom and a dad and a child on a beach, and they hear the music, and they have a obligation, to recognize that and come into our dimension and try to help. And so I can see them, stopping their activities, becoming a light being, and then coming into our dimension and popping in and staying for, the few minutes that they're here. And then they go back. And that again is a point on a curve. And I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to be in my lifetime, but I feel like it's saying something, and I'm trying to figure out what that is at this point.
Well, I say that death, it's not death for me, it's actually birth. My philosophy is, pardon?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And my life that I'm about to be birthed into has to have purpose. And if it's not to help, then what else is it? And whether I'm in the fifth, sixth, or seventh dimension, at some point in time merely becomes relative to, again, that I think the dimension you're in. And I love the aspect that here, you just taught me something, John, is that the training is for us to get, I can use the word psychically prepared more than spiritually, I think sometimes. And it tells me something. It tells me there may be distance, but there's ways that we help even those we can't comprehend.
Yeah. And they're there to help us too. I mean,
Yeah.
just the energy you feel, Wayne, when it just kind of bathes you
Mm,
in an other dimensional happiness and contentment. And the moments that I'm there, I just automatically start talking to them. I don't, it's almost talking and out of my own self a bit, because I'm not generally that gregarious. But it's just so exciting when you see them, and they've made all. I know the ramifications. I don't, but I kind of get a glimpse of what it must take for them to be here with me at this point from wherever they were. And it's mind-boggling and amazing. And I'm very thankful and grateful for that.
I sense that I'm hearing each of us are important. I think that it's just getting to that point where you're able to, or they're able to respond. Um, I
Hmm.
think so many people, John, they 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 battle with the bitterness within, never understanding that it taints even the positivity that they try to put out.
Of course. Of
And I think that that can be very easily sensed. A question: do you sense that when you see their presence, that is it a single intelligence, or do you think it's a much more broader intelligence?
And even a single one seems multiple to me. And I call them,
Ooh.
when I see a single one, I say, my friends are here. Thank you, my friends. Because
Hmm.
to me, it feels, sorry, oh,
I
I
told
feel,
you. Go ahead, my friend.
it feels like, there could be an entire world within, within that one powerful source. It could be
I
an
think there
individual.
is.
I think the ability for it to be infinite is very real.
You know, I told you when we did the Lilith series, I got this, and it stays with me wherever I go, even when I do my mirror practicing. I'm a soul of one, but a spirit of many.
Of course.
And as you keep talking, I can see where, in a sense, there is this collective, but a collective is only a collective by the individual components.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I often wonder if the two are connected here, John.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, one can be all, and all can be one. And that's, I think when they said peace to all, I mean, the ramifications of that, I mean, all, what an all encompassing, literally, number that, or concept that is.
John, I think I'd love to talk to you about an idea that I have, and it's something that maybe we can all collectively participate in. That is doing via live YouTube, where we could actually set up for the evening. And I'd be curious if what would be the impact if we had a collective consciousness as a group focusing through all of us, I guess, in a sense, but I would make you the initial focal point of this. And I wonder what we would actually be able to see manifested.
I would love it. Let's do it.
That, it's a concept of the radio telescope idea.
Uh-huh.
We would just be an array. Yeah, now you got it. Exactly.
The entire Earth became the telescope.
Why not?
That's what I said.
Is that so far-fetched? I mean, my mind is being flooded here. I mean,
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. I've invited so many people, Wayne, and no one's ever taken me up on it. And I just go up on myself, and
well, sir, we're going to do this. We can't do it here because I've got a blizzard out there, but I'm thinking, John, maybe in the warmer months, Love to get up a special show with you and I, and we'll invite 300 or 400, 500 of our closest friends to join us into a group meditation of saying, if anything else, hello.
I would love that. I will tell you, and you know, the attitude is so key, because I did do that with the MUFON director here. Asked, you know, I gave him the um, the original sighting paperwork, and I wrote it all out for him because it was such an amazing thing. He came and took interviews, and he invited me to go on a sky watch. And you know, we all went out in Athens, and it was in the middle of a field. And Wayne, some of the people were scared, they were afraid and apprehensive. And you know, the state director is very, you know, actually sent him the video I sent you, and he goes, "Those are probably Mylar balloons." And I don't think
Of course.
so. I was there, and there was about 12 of us, and I was sitting, and I was in my chair, and I was projecting really deeply. And they were all discussing everything in the world, and it didn't bother me. I just projected, and this sometimes when of the larger craft come, there will be a shooting star effect, a golden shooting star, and his partner was behind me. The director was actually looking in the other direction, and excuse me, and his partner said, "Wow," and I said, "They're coming, here they come." And about 30 seconds later, directly overhead, a golden, luminous, very large craft appeared. And it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. It was about the largest thing I'd seen. And the director he jumped up and screamed, "It's a satellite, it's a satellite," and started running in circles. I freaked him out, and it went back to a point and disappeared, and I saw it at 30,000 feet, and it left. And so when we do this, everybody has to realize that, you know, it's imperative that you have the right mindset, be open to the universe, be willing to accept what they offer. And every time it's very beautiful, but it changes your paradigm. So you got to be prepared for that. That's the only thing I would say.
I love this. In fact, I think that we're going to get a date. I think that, John, this could be exciting. Maybe
Yeah,
we can get a couple of the other channels to participate. I'd love to be able to do this on a group level that would, you know, John, you have brought inspiration to this group, and that's what I always see as the indicator. Um, I had never looked at us individually. There's more empaths here, more intuitives than you'll ever find in one group collected, that we
wow,
are, in fact, we're all antenna array.
of course, of course.
This is huge.
And completely unique. I mean, you think of a fingerprint as being unique, but your soul print is so beyond that. You
Oh,
know?
oh. Well, John, I'm going to have you back on if you'll come back on even before we do this. Maybe we can have another time, an hour, where we can get people just into. I think it's very important to prepare yourself psychically for an event like this. You bring out such a vital importance. Fear. Fear is a contaminator. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
As a musician, you know, when you're stepping on stage, and like that first performance for President Carter, there were 3 presidents there, and 3,000
no pressure.
dignitaries. And so you have to realize that, you know, your mind is on different levels of attention, and so you have to know how to calm those things. You have to calm you know, the non-essential thinking, and you have to get down to the purity of the moment. And so musicians, I think, have that too, and that's another thing that's very helpful. So I think this could be something that would be helpful to all of us. I'm sure I would learn from each experience of the others there too. So let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll give you a call later on, probably later on this week, maybe part of early next week. I'll email you ahead of time. Let's
Yeah.
plan this. Let's plan this. And ladies and gentlemen, that you're listening to this, if you have your channel, if you have subscribers, you know of others potentially, let's see about doing this in a much broader community capacity, and let's light up the sky. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, another beautiful thing, Wayne, is the animals will become involved too. We have red-tailed hawks here in Atlanta, and they're here in my neighborhood. And we have bird feeders, and we have many generations of birds. And occasionally they'll pick one off, and that's just nature by itself.
Yeah.
When But they recognize what I'm doing. They can see from way high down to the earth, but they can also see deep into space and deep into other dimensions. I was out in my courtyard, and there were two of them circling my courtyard in a very tight circle, and directly in between them, two metallic balls that were connected appeared right between the hawks, and they were spinning. They were circling like that, and then it just slowly went away. And the next day I was playing guitar on my deck, and that one of those two hawks was directly over the top of me, and I waved to him, and he was just went, oh, and they do it all the
I
time.
love it.
And oftentimes when the orbs are appearing, before they are, the hawks show up. And one will be like at 800 feet, another will be way up at 3,000, and then the orbs will come, and they know it. And if they can, I think the frequencies are really starting to align. And
I
so
think so.
it's amazing what you do when you try. That's all I say. Try. Give it a try.
We're going to try.
When you try, generally you do.
Well, I've often found this. I don't want to go and say, well, I didn't try because I was afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
yeah.
if nothing happens, the the content was there, the intent was there, and try again. It's like guitar, when you're playing and the first performances are so bad and you feel so, oh, what am I doing? But you keep going and you keep trying. And all of a sudden you're playing for a president of the United States, and he becomes your friend. And that's the same thing here. You start, I wrote him a letter about my UFO experiences. That was something that took some courage from,
Oh, yeah.
and he
Definitely.
he acknowledged it and wrote a very nice, lovely comment about it. And I wanted to share it with him because, if for whatever reason he's not around any longer, and I didn't take that opportunity to tell him, I would regret that. And I don't want to have any regrets. I want to have a life that I feel is fulfilled. And that's what I'm trying to do anyway.
Well, we're about hope here. And I think that what you've inspired us, John, is I think this is an avenue of hope that we're going to do collectively. We're going to do it. And I just thank you. I mean, you brought the inspiration, and I have to say, this show is, if anything, is one of hope. And I sense that, and I really appreciate that.
Wayne, do you have the picture of the impacted heart that they made for me, the cloud with
Hmm.
the piece out of it? I'm not sure if you can pull that up, but
Yeah.
I would love to share that one. I was going through a very difficult time this last year. A friend of mine passed, and I was the executor of his estate, a very large estate, and it was very difficult in many, many ways. And I was in the depths of really trying to
This one?
know. They
Let's
made many
see.
hearts. Keep on going. Let's see if we can find it.
Yeah, I think I only had 3 up here. Yeah.
Okay.
This one, this
Um,
one.
well, the next time we do it, we will.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that.
But they made a heart shape for me right when I was walking to the water park. They had it right on the side above the sidewalk, and you can see a perfect heart with a piece out of it, which was just a beautiful showing of empathy. from
Wow.
the universe. And then later I looked down and I could see there was a small craft underneath it. It was round and you could see a ring around it. And we'll have that for
Let's
the
do that.
but they made they it's amazing how they can just do that. They made a beautiful one evening there was it's either a phoenix rising. It was after all that was over, and I emerged, and I felt like I was myself again. And they made this beautiful phoenix for me, or a dove of peace, one of the two, in cloud formation, and there were orbs around it. And that was for me. They made that for me.
The
That's
empathy. You just
that's
said another key word. Well, John, thank you, sir. I'm sincere. This has just been, folks, the way we can show support to that, go to his website. The links are below. Buying music of a talented artist, and one that I just welcome you into this community. I just think that this is an opportunity, John, to continue to grow and learn together. And I think you can teach us a few things.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I apologize for the technical
Are
difficulties.
you kidding? That's just part of the course. Why we're so used to that, it's like, well, if it doesn't happen, well, all right, something's good. Well,
And
John, thank you. Would you like to say something at the end for everyone?
yeah, I just would encourage everyone to uh, try it themselves. Go outside, enjoy a beautiful evening. The weather is really lovely, and just what I do, I have other people that are experiencers, and I acknowledge them as my friends. So acknowledge me as your friend.
Ooh,
Say John Martin is a friend of mine, and I would like to contact you as well if you'd like to come here. And I'm a master carpenter, and this is how I create some of my art. And so in your mind, create some of these perfect angles, or whatever it is. If you're whatever it would be, and just I create poetry, read poems outside, whatever it is. And if somebody wants a CD, generally, Wayne, I just kind of give my stuff away these days.
I
I
love you, man. I
what
mean,
I like for people to do, if they want a CD, my email is jmartingtr@gmail.com. And what I would ask is send me something that you made, that you're proud of. It could be anything, just a small poem, or something that you've created that you'd like to share. And I think that's really more where I want to be. Is
excellent. You know what I'm going to do, John? I'll add your email when I repost this. And you see, folks, that's wisdom. Um, so, all right, John, I'll get that. Thank you. Man, I really like you, dude. We ought to get together.
absolutely.
Next time I'm in Atlanta, or if you're ever here in the Mile High City, or if we meet somewhere in between.
Wayne, thank you
Well,
for having me on today. It has been a great pleasure.
it's been an honor for me, sir. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, everyone here. Listen, this is a truly amazing man, and we all can learn some things here, folks. And John, we're going to make the world's first human array.
Love
I don't
it.
know what we'd call it. We'll figure something out on what we'll call it.
I think human array is about as good as it can be.
I think that's what we'll do then. John, thank you, my friend. Peace to you. I will be calling you and emailing you with a follow-up. Thank you, everyone that have been in here. Support John and tell him what you really think of his music. Only the kind stuff. We want no critics here. Right?
Hallelujah.
Walk in love. John, all my love to you, my friend. Namaste to you, sir.
Love to
Okay.
you.
All right, folks. Be good. We'll talk soon, folks. All right. Bye-bye.